Welcome to this week's episode of the Prep Athletics Podcast. I'm proud to have joining us an old friend, and by old, we played against each other when we were both in sixth grade over in Europe in Finland. And I'm talking about Hanno Möttölä. Hanno's 6'10", and we played against him when my little team from Kentucky went to Finland. I've got a picture of me and him in black and white. Also, and that's my cousin Brad Miller. So we had in this small little gym on the top floor of a hotel, two NBA players in there. And it was pretty surreal. And then I had a teammate in high school from Finland, Lauri Markkanen, who Hanno knows. And Hanno played at Utah when I was at Air Force. We were in the same conference. And then he almost won a championship at Utah, but lost in the final couple minutes to Kentucky back in 1998. But when he was at Utah, I played for legendary coach Rick Majerus. He had a lot of NBA teammates to include Britton Johnson, Keith Van Horn, Andre Miller, Mike Doliak. So he goes about just the gruel it was to play for Rick Majerus. He talks about the transition to the NBA, what it's like in the EuroLeague and how that's different than the NBA. And then he's coached players like Lauri Markkanen, who's now with in the NBA and who played at Arizona, who's just kicking butt as a 7-foot 3-point shooter. Talks about his development. And we dig into the question that people want to know is, what is the secret sauce to making it to the NBA, right? He gives his feelings on that and talks about NIL now and how that affects kids looking to go to Europe. So great episode. Good catching up with Hanno after all these years. We did see him about 8 years ago. I picked us up at the airport when we landed in Finland. Got to see him coach, got to hang out with him a little bit, and my former teammate, Lauri Markkanen. So it's a good blast from the past and good to hear a different perspective from a guy I really respect. So enjoy this week's episode of the Prep Athletics Podcast with Hanno Möttölä. Welcome to the Prep Athletics Podcast. This is Cory Heitz.
Some battles. I'm not sure if they got us. If they did, maybe.
So you will get better as a player during that year.
So it was kind of exciting. Like, oh yeah, somebody wants me.
Hanno, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Cory.
It's good to see you again. And we go back to the late 80s to where we actually met in Finland when a group of kids from Kentucky went over to play because there's some coaching connection with the Finnish connection. And I found a picture probably 10 years ago, and it was black and white, and it had you in it, I found out, and then my cousin Brad Miller. So there were two NBA players in this little YMCA gym, and you guys beat the tar out of us. I think some of the games we played against not just your team but others, you guys have beat us like 100-10. You pressed the entire game, and I think you had home cooking with the referees too. So why did you have to beat us so bad?
Yeah. I'm sure if we pressed the whole game, that's probably what I'm most against in the junior basketball. The coaches that go full court press, but yeah, no, it was great times, and I remember our club YMCA Helsinki used to host a big kind of middle of the season tournament, and it was exciting to get some foreign visitors, and you guys stayed in our different players' homes, and it was good times.
Did you actually have a player in your house with your family or not?
Yeah, I think we had two. Okay. two players. If I remember right. Yeah, I tried to take him to sauna, and it wasn't even heated, and they got scared. So
why they got scared because my dad said, if you go to a sauna, you're gonna have to get naked. So all of us being sixth graders, that's nothing more scary than being naked in front of anybody, let alone strangers.
Absolutely.
So that's the reason why, just so you know.
Yeah.
And then Timu Lang, one of your teammates, that's who me and my buddy Joey stayed with. And they said, you want to get in the sauna with us? And we said, absolutely not. So times have changed. But anyway, so fast forward from that, and you got really good enough to come play in America. How did you get so good? And then did you always know you wanted to play in the States, or what led to that?
Answer the first question, like everybody, I mean, you need to have a talent, you have a will to practice and skill to practice. I think that's not I've been, I guess this is the 11th year full-time coaching, 13 total. More and more I kind of learn about this. It's the skill and will to practice to get better is one of the biggest talents athlete can have. So I guess I was, and I kind of went I guess my career kind of went up and down, especially in junior years. I was always tall. I played with my big brother for first couple of years, so I got used to playing with older guys, and then when everybody else got their teenage growth burst, I burst. I stayed at the same height, about probably 6 foot for almost a year and a half, and then I learned some, living better kind of perimeter skills, and then I started growing again, and yeah, and then became about 6'11" or 6'10" and a half. So I got kind of lucky there. I was definitely a late bloomer biologically, so I wasn't one of those who could just, with the sheer power and the strength to you know get to succeed early on. So I kind of had to, use my skills early on. I was skinny as hell. So yeah, and I got lucky in our at that time. Finland wasn't a basketball country like it is now, but I got lucky with probably the best junior coach in the country who were demanding a lot of things out of us, but taught us the fundamentals. Um, so yeah, and then I guess probably like a lot of kids growing up in the '80s, you know. You know, kind of going to US was probably, play basketball was probably, kind of in their sights. For some reason, I went to San Antonio as an exchange student after my sophomore year in high school, and then came back home for 2 more years. That experience kind of after that, I was like, well, I ain't going back. Gonna then, you watch TV shows in the '80s, like, hey, everything's great, but then you realize, hey, Monday morning, 7 a.m., wake up at 7 a.m. everywhere. And then so I was kind of hesitant to go, but then more and more schools started recruiting me, and probably got recruited with probably 60 plus schools. And that time, it was a VHS tapes and just coaches talking to coaches. And yeah, so then I end up, after, I took a visit to Utah and Cal, but said no to North Carolina and Kansas and you name it. So yeah, end up with Utah with Rick Majerus, and yeah, I mean it was a definitely a life changing decision, and I would say a big learning experience to play for now late Rick Majerus. He's going to change you. Um, from who you are to something different, and most of the cases but better, like in my case, but it does take a toll on you, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Now, what did Rick say, and what did the Utah staff say that differentiated them from the other schools you mentioned? Like, why did
Well,
you choose them? What was the big
yeah, well,
factor?
we talk about mid '90s now,
Mhm.
so there was no internet, there was barely no, I mean, no cell phones really. uh so I mean, you literally, you get the letters, you get a yearbook, uh but what I because I my brain is working like I want everything to be done by the book. That's why I love it here in Finland. People wait on a crosswalk when a light is red. Most of the times they don't, it just, that's how I operate. So uh where everybody, all the other coaches were telling, hey, yeah, you're going to be great, you're going to have a chance to go to the NBA, da 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 da. On my first phone call with Rick Majerus, he blasted my defensive rebounding. You know, I mean, I wasn't probably all defensive team. I was decent. I was a really good shot blocker. Uh, but like, I was like, all right, well, he's actually watched tape. He isn't. He doesn't just call me to give me sugarcoat things. So that kind of draw interest in me. And then he came here to Finland and kind of you know meet him, and he was just honest, brutally honest. Whatever his opinion is, I was. He told you that. I mean, and it was. I mean, in those 4 years, I mean, there's a lot of things that he said that you just roll your eyes, but that's the way he believed. But again, it was hard because I mean, I never heard of University of Utah really before they started recruiting me. Then I started, following a little bit and understood kind of a good history, and obviously Keith Van Horn was when they started recruiting me. Keith was a sophomore. When I took the visit, he was a junior, yeah. So but I got lucky. Got to play with Andre Miller 3 years, and Michael Doliak, and the year. So back then I'm definitely for a foreign kid. I mean, it was 50% luck. I mean, truly, where you end up, because you just have no chance of getting any information. I mean, you can get like an NBC International something showed the tournament games or one game every day, and that was it. And then so but just talking to the coaches, and they came here to Finland, and that's and kind of that experience. What I know, we're not talking about kind of the recruiting part yet, but I always tell the schools, like, if you really want an international player, the head coach needs to take that 72 hours out of his recruiting window, make the trip over, look at the kid and the parent in the eye, and say, hey, I'm here, I want your son or your daughter, and reasons, because it's only 3 days, and and back then your son or daughter is kind of taking a leap of faith for 4 years, so you gotta, but it's different times. Definitely now there's a lot more obviously things involved with the recruiting, with the NIL and all that, but yeah, I mean, I mean, you obviously, it's been 30 years since that recruiting process, and yeah, I kind of play games. All right, what if I've gone to North Carolina? What if I've gone to a small school, or who knows what would have happened? But yeah, I was pretty lucky, and still have a lot of positive memories, and I still follow obviously Utah athletics. Like everybody who's gone to a school for 4 years and given everything you got, it becomes part of your family for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Now, with these college practices, you've got 4 NBA players on the court with Andre, you, Keith, Doliak. Um, the secret sauce that everyone always wants to know is, how do you make it to the NBA? Right. And you're a rarity. Those guys are rarities. It's very hard to do. But what did you see those guys have in them that got them to that level?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a short story here. So I flew in, my first fall there, and I got in, yeah, the previous night, late night. The next afternoon, someone knocks my door. It's Keith Van Horn and Michael Doliak. Like, hey, let's go play ball. I'm like, I know, I'm jet lagged. I'm run around in offices to try to get all the registration done. Like, all right, let's go. So I'm thinking we go just shoot around and kind of welcoming thing. But what I kind of learned is Keith had kind of this way of you know welcoming the new guys in, and we went in there and we played 1-on-1 for about an hour and a half, and I probably got a shut off 4 times in those that hour and a half. But I did hear from afterwards that they both appreciated I went at it. So so I think, I guess, kind of just the sheer physicality, and in Keith's case is the athleticism, and Michael Doliak's case the physicality is something that you got to get used to. But I wasn't afraid of contact. It was just kind of more, also got to learn to little new rules. FIBA rules are you can do different things compared to college. Um, so, but when you talk about college practice, in Utah's case, my first year, the October 15th, which was the start date, like it used to be, it fell on a Saturday, and we practiced Saturday, Sunday, both days, 2 3.5 hour practice. So we're up to 14 hours by Sunday. So I guess you remember, and we were practicing kind of at a high school gym, probably because majority didn't want anyone to see the amount of hours we put in, and it was literally across the street from my apartment. And I remember like barely able to walk, across the street and just lay on a couch for 3 hours or 4 hours we had between. And I was like, where the hell did I put myself into? And I actually remember, like physically, I remember it was probably November. So I've gone through about 4 weeks of this. I mean, in my perspective, just pure hell. I mean, because
Right.
it's a 3+ hour practice every single day. And I remember I'm sitting in the classroom with the big, auditorium, and I write on the side of my notebook that, hey, this is absolutely crazy. I'm going home in May. I wasn't quitting then. But I was like, hey, I'm, I'm going through this first year, but like, I mean, because I got offered 10-year contracts from ACB team in Spain before I went to Utah. And back then, I mean, we're not talking about NIL era. I might have gotten a free Subway sandwich and some extra TGI Friday points in my 4 years, and that was the benefits we got, which I'm really proud of. But kind of the second part of your question is the NBA guys. It's obviously you need to be one of the best and be at the right time, at the right time, and then be consistently good, because that's when it's not enough that you have a one good game in front of someone. You need to show that, hey, and we're talking about back then. We all stayed 4 years, so it's that consistency. Nowadays, it's a lot more about sheer just athletic ability, talent, and kind of what does this future maybe look like. Back then it was more, okay, how ready product can we get. Okay, it was still some one and done guys, and all that, but probably half of the first round, or good portion of the first round picks were and the draft were guys who were 3 or 4 years, and were able to go right in and produce at least a little bit. So talent, great coaching, and then like I said, a lot of that is luck. I've told people, well, there's 450 players in the NBA. I guarantee there's a couple thousand in the world who could play NBA tomorrow, easy. And then at the same time, there's players in NBA right now. You would drop them in the EuroLeague or good league in domestic league in Europe, they would struggle. So it's so. But yeah, I mean, I was back then. It was college was kind of really kind of the for a kid from Finland, because I didn't play any high level European competition other than with the national team. So to be able to have a chance to go to the NBA, that was my way of doing it. Although when I went to Utah, I wasn't thinking about going to the NBA. It wasn't my dream, because if I would told someone I'm going to make the NBA, it would have been a joke. There's never been one from Finland. We had probably 5 guys get drafted in the 60s and 70s, early 80s. There was a good group of players that went to BYU because of the Mormon missionary came here. A man named Robert Peterson, long time ago, and he became a national team coach, and he was assistant coach on our '62 Tokyo Olympics, and obviously he had the BYU connection, and he actually got the BYU coach to come in and try to recruit me. But I've heard enough stories of that, and I wasn't going to BYU. So, but yeah, so that was my route to the NBA, and again, got to be lucky, got to be really good, and then one of those really good players and get a little bit of lucky.
Yeah, love it. Now, before we move on to the NBA, what's the biggest thing you took away from playing for Coach Majerus?
He always told us that whatever you decide to do it 100%. If you go to math class, well, you got to spend whatever it is, hour and a half there. Why not give it all you got? because you got to be there anyway, and it's not physically demanding. So I mean, it really, and he pushed us to a limit, and you know, and I can honestly say I was able to. When I left Utah, I was never able to practice that hard again because
Oh, wow.
no one pushed me, that to that limit anymore. And then kind of when you leave that, you're like, all right, well now I'm in the NBA, I can ease up a little bit, which obviously wasn't maybe the smartest thing, but I think just the sheer work ethic and then also the level of discipline you need to get good at something. It's and that's probably, it's pretty hard for these kids these days because they have so many things going around. It's tough to be a discipline and concentrate on just few things. So just how hard you can actually work. I thought I was practicing hard, but I was probably going 50-60% before I got to that environment. Did he go overboard? Absolutely, something that he couldn't do today. But he truly pushed us to a limit, and it's pretty fun to look back and realize how much you can actually get out of yourself on daily basis.
Yeah, love it. Now, what was the moment in your college career when you said, "I think I can play in the NBA"? Was there a game? Was it what someone said to you? Was it you like taking on Van Horn one day in practice and beating him up? Like, what was there a moment like before and after when you had that belief?
Um, I mean, I would say now that going back, I remember after my freshman year. See, I'm only 1 year younger than Van Horn, but I say because I was exchange student, so it took me one more year of kind of high school, and then I'm born late in the year, so Uh, but I remember first time the NBA was ever kind of discussed was at kind of end of season dinner. This is my freshman year. Majerus asked like, "Hey, you know, I'm gonna talk to NBA teams to see kind of what's the feedback." I was like, "Okay, well, I mean, they were like, okay, like for me it was because I'm a program guy. I follow the lead. Hey, Van Horn stayed 4 years. Doliak's gonna stay another year, and all that. So, but that was kind of the first time it was ever discussed. Then the next year when we started really rolling, we got Alex Jensen, now the 12-year NBA assistant, and now newly appointed head coach of University of Utah basketball team. Alex returned from a Mormon mission, and we had Alex, myself, Michael Doliak, and Andre Miller. Keith had gone to the NBA already, and then Drew Hansen was in the starting lineup. Then also another future NBA player, Britton Johnson, only McDonald's All-American in history that Majerus have ever gotten. He was a local guy from Murray, Utah. So we had a really good squad, and we started. I think we were 18 and 0, 18 and 1. 18 when we lost the first game, and had a really good season. Me, Andre, and Michael were kind of the leading scorers, and had some big games in national TV games, and so then kind of started hearing a little bit of the talking again. There was no social media, and there was no really internet that you could follow, so which was good. But I understood that, hey, if I stay healthy and keep growing and get stronger, I have a chance. And then obviously, we get to the Final Four, get to the national championship game. I have a good game there. Now looking back, that's when I should have gone to draft. The following year, I stayed with Andre. We were number 3 in the country going into tournament. Then I unfortunately lost to Wally Zerbiak, and he's a Miami of Ohio team. I mean, worst game we ever played in my 4 years. And then Andre asked me like, you got to come to draft with me. But I was again kind of brainwashed. Hey, Utah guys stay 4 years. Andre stayed 5 years. Andre Miller was the first NCAA athlete to get the Prop 48, benefits to stay 5 years. So so I stayed stayed for my last year, and then was a preseason All-American. I was still a lottery pick, Christmas time, but I blew my MCL, I blew my elbow and my thumb preseason, middle of a season. So I played about half the games, and I remember Majerus asked me like, "Hey, would you like to redshirt?" I'm like, "I'm not like whatever. I'm playing." So he kind of in his book, in his interviews later on, like that's one of the things he regrets, that he let me play at about 70% most of the season. But it was my choice, So I dropped from a potentially lottery pick, first round pick, to the second round, but then I had to grind it out and earn the contract. And but yeah, so that was kind of my path to the NBA. I mean, just 4 years before, I wasn't going to the NBA, going to college to go to the NBA. I was going to college to become a good college player. And then kind of was able to keep up with the good teammates, and obviously play for my first 3 years. We were a top 10 team. My first year, we lost to Kentucky in the Elite Eight. Second year, lost to Kentucky, 3.5 minutes to go. We were still leading the national championship game. Then junior year, we were really good, got upset second round, and then my last year, we lost to a eventual champion Michigan State in the second round. So I got spoiled, as far as won four conference championships. I went 63-1 at the Huntsman Center, our home arena. I lost to Tim Duncan my freshman year, New Year's. That was the Tim Duncan, Keith Van Horn, number 2 and number 4 team in the country. And after that, I went 57-0 in the home court. So, it was great times. You learn how to win. You have I tell people it was an amazing feeling when you go into the last 2 minutes of a game and you're going to win. Because we practice better, we are more disciplined, we're more detailed. Kentucky game was really the only one that we lost in the last seconds, but at the home we were pretty damn good.
Yeah, one of our best, the 4 years I was at Air Force, one of our best wins was almost beating you guys the year you went to the finals. I think we lost to you guys by 3 at home, so that was kind of a victory for us. That's how on the other end of the spectrum we were, right? But no, thanks for sharing all that. All right, so you now get to the NBA, to the Hawks, and what I like to ask former NBA players is, what was the best part about being in the NBA, and then what was the worst part about being in the NBA?
For me, the worst part was, again, kind of going back to my previous answer. I needed, like, if there's a negative thing about playing for Majerus, is that you just do what he and his program kind of tells you to do, and you don't have an ounce of energy to do anything else. We didn't have energy to go early to shoot, so I needed an NBA team that had a really strong, kind of player development program. Let's go 2 hours early, and I played. I mean, I started my first 3 games. I started probably, I don't know, 25 games in my 2 years. I played 15 and about 18 minutes my 2 years. So I wasn't like a 10th, 11th guy. I was a 6th, 7th, 8th guy. But so I guess the worst part is that, and then I was taught this perfect team basketball at Utah, and then you go to the NBA, and I still tell, I'm not, my brain is not, doesn't work the way NBA players should. Like I don't, if we're down 20, I told Coach Kruger to take me out in the last 5 minutes. I don't want to, be out here, we game, let's get, I want to get ready for next game. We're now looking back, well, no, I should have been selfish and just put up numbers in the last 2 minutes. So I wasn't selfish enough for the NBA. It's kind of, a lot of that was the way we were programmed at Utah, and also my personality. But so I guess for pure NBA player, that was the kind of worst part, I guess. You know, but the best part is obviously you know, getting a chance to play, you know, against your childhood idols. You know, got to play against Michael Jordan. Got to play, you know, Olajuwon, who was my. I mean, I've watched hours and hours of his moves on the VHS tape, and you know, I'll tell people one of the two best moments of my career is when I got switched on to MJ. I gave me at the elbow the patented little fake and fade away jumper and hit it on my face because that's the way it should be. And then Olajuwon gave me the dream shake and hit it. So I was like, all right, now I'm baptized.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, that's obviously, you know, and obviously the lifestyle is great. But just, you know, be there, and then when you realize that, hey, I can play in this league, not, you know, yeah, if I could go back and tell myself what you need to do to stay 15 years in this league, because I should have stayed 15. But you know, at that time in the way I was, you know, I was thinking, you know, it was a, you know, I wanted also to come back to Europe. I had some, you know, 1 year offers, but I wanted to come back and kind of play basketball in my mind, more team basketball, and because I felt, you know, in 2 years I didn't really get better as a basketball player in the NBA. Although you get, you know, you played 4 games a week, but it's more just a game prep and go there and so yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable experience. Wouldn't change it for anything, but also, you know, it was hard for me at that time because I knew I wasn't selfish enough for NBA. And that's why, looking back, that's why I was lucky I went to Utah, because this ultimate team program, and Majerus kind of told in front of everybody, hey, Hanno is our number 2 option after Andre. Or my last year, you know, hey, I'm going to kill every single person here if Hanno doesn't have the most shots at the halftime. So like, my brain needs that. Like, so I'm told in front of the whole team, like, hey, Hanno is selfish if he doesn't take these shots that we create for him, rather than, hey, try to go create your own shot. And they're kind of thinking, does the coach need that? And I, you know, and hey, I've played with a lot of guys who they don't give a damn what coach says. They're going to put up their shots. You know, I always needed to know my role, and then make sure that my teammates know that I'm filling that role, whether it's just to being a rebounder and defender, or try to be a scorer. So in that sense, I got real lucky with Utah as well.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. So you then went from the NBA and then played for some top teams in the EuroLeague. For those that don't know, like, what are the big differences between the playing styles and the experience?
Well, again, I'm talking about, you know, I went to EuroLeague 2002, so it's a long time, but obviously I still watch it, you know, watch it every week, and you know, coaching the men's national team, which we play against NBA EuroLeague players. I would say if EuroLeague's closer to the basketball that you see in the Olympics. It's FIBA rules, and this is not me saying, it's all the NBA players. It's a lot more physical. Uh, Defensive rule. There's no defensive 3 second. So in FIBA basketball, EuroLeague, when you beat your guy, there's a help waiting. You don't get into three paint without being touched. Whereas obviously, because of a lot of the rules in the NBA, the lane is a lot more open. So if you beat your man, there's a good chance you can go and, you know, and then dunk it. So I would say the physicality, and then also, which really also just it took a little time to get used to. Not that every game didn't matter in college, but in the NBA, it's 82 games, and we all understand it's for the money reasons. It's not, you know, there's no human being who can play 82 games at every possession counts. In EuroLeague, every possession counts, every game counts. So the intensity is pretty high up. That's why I love watching NBA playoffs, because the level of intensity rises so much from a regular season. Unfortunately, regular season, it is what it is. Some great games, but so I would say the intensity, and then it's more team oriented. It is more team defense, more team offense, and it's the best players in EuroLeague, they don't play 35 minutes. If you play 25 minutes in Europe, okay, it's a 40-minute game. 25 minutes is a lot. So it's a bigger rotation. Bigger rotation. Obviously, only 5 fouls to be used, just like in college. It is a lot different. Obviously, NBA has incredible talent level, incredible. I mean, yes, the most of the best players in the world play in the NBA, no question. But from like a pure basketball standpoint, if you take a normal regular season EuroLeague game compared to regular season NBA game, for my liking, I enjoy EuroLeague a ton more because it's a team basketball. It's the intensity is pretty incredible at some of those matchups, and obviously the crowds are incredible in some places. It's a kind of best college atmosphere on steroids. You go to Belgrade. There's, I don't know, out of the 20,000 people in the stands, there's 10,000 middle-aged man without shirts, singing and yelling 40 minutes. That it's pretty, and that's what I loved. And at home you love it because they're singing your name and you're all that. But I loved it going on the road and try to silence those crowds because at them it is their life. Like the fan groups, they're organized. They're basically professional fans. Yes,
Yeah.
they do have a day job to finance that, but they have like okay, and they have like, and this is going a little deeper, but like when I played my last EuroLeague season in Greece, I was talking to people at that time. Panathinaikos, which is the biggest club, their fan groups yearly budget was about 10 million. Olympiacos was like 7. I played for Aris, another legendary, like 3. And that means, okay, and you have like a monthly schedule. Hey, this is your men's team plays here. And then you travel, you follow them into France for this EuroLeague game. And then the next Tuesday, it's a soccer game or women's volleyball. And it's, when I'm talking about, so it's like a grown up student section. That's probably good.
Yeah.
It's a grown up student section. And if you're not doing well, you're going to hear it. And I've gotten hit in with the coin close to my eye and all that, and get thrown by a plastic bottle with. I remember in Naples in Italy, there was some yeah, we were walking into a huddle in the timeout, and this 2 old ladies, grandmas in the front row, told me with a plastic bottle because they were not happy with their home, their team. We're beating their team, so. Do they go overboard sometimes, the crowd? Yes, but it's amazing. And it becomes a drug. It becomes a drug for you. And that's when I retired. Then that was the one thing that hit me. Like, I'm never going to maybe feel that again. So you get a little bit of glimpse of what does a rock star feel like when you play in some of these European arenas. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I love you said that. I've only experienced that once, and is when I was in Istanbul, and the 2 teams there, the 2 clubs that have gone back hundreds of years, were playing each other, and I got there early, and there was things I noticed where there were no women, no children, and it was very aggressive, and there was violence in the air, and there were fights in the stands, and like they had police escorts, and it was nuts. And whenever the opposing team had the ball, everyone would whistle, so it was noisy.
Yeah.
And there were a couple former NBA players out there playing. I actually talked to one of them later about that, and he's like, "Yeah, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before." So it was not a family friendly event like the NBA is, right?
Yeah. I mean, and then obviously, there's a lot of, and there's some who are pretty aggressive crowds, but also those cultures are a little different. And
Yeah.
so I would say probably that it is become more of a family event, but still there's the fan section that goes at it hard. But also like my year with Bologna, which where we got to the EuroLeague final. in Tel Aviv, lost to them. We talk about preseason, 2 months before the season starts. We drive 10 plus hours to Slovenia to this, high altitude training crowd, and we're out there 9 in the morning, running around, outdoor field, conditioning, and all of a sudden I start hearing these drums going and singing. 2 buses full of our families, drove there 10 hours, 2 months before the season starts, to cheer us when we are just conditioning in high altitude camp. I was like,
That's awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna play hard for these guys. So
Yeah, that's right.
the same kind of in college. Like, you understand, like, you have to give everything you have for them, because it's the atmosphere. You play for school, the fans. It's a lot of that is in Europe as well. But obviously, then the NBA, you go some of these great places, where there are good crowds. It's obviously unbelievable atmosphere as well. But it is it's different. It's every game truly matters. So I highly recommend, if any listeners are thinking about a European vacation during a basketball season, try to see if there's a good basketball game and or a football game for that matter, or a soccer game. I would say. I mean, it's a there's some great fans in Europe for team sports for sure.
Yeah, let's go back to college real quick. When you played on the road, what was the most electric atmosphere for you?
Us in New Mexico was, New Mexico was a top 15, top 20 program. We were the top 10 program. So that was always, we were it was always usually the last game of the big Monday or Sunday or early game or, or Sunday, national TV games. So those were always really, really good games. They had great teams. And then obviously, BYU is a natural rivalry, but we were so much better than them at that time. I actually did end up losing my very last, so I was 11-1 against BYU, which still hurts, but we were pretty dominated against them, so it wasn't really, close games then. So that was obviously a really good one, but it was kind of a shame that because of how good team Coach Majerus had built, and then the altitude in Salt Lake City, not very many, outside the conference high major teams would play us home and away. We had Texas, we had Wake Forest. I'm trying to think who else, but so that was kind of, the Dukes and North Carolina, though they wouldn't play us, although they knew we were a top 10 team, because it's a different animal when you travel from sea level to and it's only 33,000, 3,300 feet. Denver is another couple thousand. Then we go to Wyoming, which is the highest elevation gym in the D1. And I remember we got smoked there the couple times we were there because you're so tired. So that was always fun. See the visiting team start asking for extra air, and that way you knew you got them.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I was curious. So you coached Lauri Markkanen before, he went to Arizona, and then now he's in the NBA doing great things. Once again, I'm trying to find the secret sauce here of what makes an NBA player, and what did he possess specifically that helped him get to the level he's at today?
Well, gotta repeat myself. You gotta have
right?
you gotta have the genes. His father played for Roy Williams at Kansas. It was probably the reason why I didn't go to Kansas and told our national team coach that Roy Williams can't recruit me, because Lauri's dad told the stories about 3-hour practices without a water break. So, and then it's funny because then Roy Williams recruited Lauri, and then we were laughed about it, like, all right, so you were scared of me, but you went to play for Rick Majerus. So Lauri, and then his mom also former basketball player. So great genes. Both brothers played, high level athletes. So that's one, and love of the game. I mean, he loves basketball. He loved to practice on his own when he was a kid. he's youngest of the three brothers, so he got a little beat up probably and had to survive that. And that was early in my coaching career, and just he was one of the first players. And really, true, honestly, there's only a handful that you knew from after the first week that you never have to tell Lauri to go full. You don't have to think, okay, who am I going to put into that drill with Lauri so someone pushes him to further. So that was you never have to practice. You don't have to coach effort with Lauri or attention to detail. Little example, he was a skinny kid growing up, like myself. So he was always a good shooter, but he shot kind of one motion shot from really low, kind of set point. Even when he got to us his junior year, and I told him like, hey, let's it's a big change for you to move with your mom to Helsinki from 3 hours away from Jyväskylä, so let's ease into this, but probably in a month let's start working on kind of let's see what happens when you start raising your set point a little bit. And then he comes back to me about 3 weeks later like, hey, that new shot that we talked about, you start feeling good. I'm like, what? Yeah, I've been working every night, lifting my set point. So you're like, all right, well, so he's the type of player that challenges coach. Like you can't just half-ass anything with him. And he's a team guy, doesn't talk back, so he's has his own opinion, obviously, and obviously now he's a totally different level. But if we have a chance to work out in the summers or with national team, he's still like the little kid, watches coaches in the eye and does what's asked. So again, skill and talent to practice, skill and talent to want to get better. Those are, and then if the foundation is that you have great genes, and with Lauri's case, he was probably 6'9" when he got to us, and by the time 2 years later he graduated, he already passed me, and now he's whatever 7'7", probably 1, something like that. So that helps, and he's athletic. So it's everything kind of needs to be in one package if you want to get to that all-star level. I wasn't as tall as Lauri. I wasn't as athletic as him. I can still say I was better inside scorer. That's probably what I'm not comparing myself to Lauri now, but so that was enough for me to get the NBA 25 years ago. So it's the same kind of story. Lauri just done everything and had better, foundation than I did. So he obviously, and you really, it's fun to be around players like that because you can actually see him grow and kind of, and almost best type of coaching with him is like, just keep your mouth shut. Look what he does, and then get little pointers there, or ask like, hey, how does that feel? But I think one of the big talents for coaches is to be quiet. That's a lot of times that's the best type of coaching. It's coaching is not about telling the players what you know. It's you got to get the players to figure it out themselves, because the only thing that matters is what the players know. It doesn't matter what I know. Players need to know. They're the ones who are playing it. So Lauri is always a very curious guy, and he's a just a great guy to be around.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all the development background with him. Now, you help a lot of players from Finland navigate the U.S. college system, right? You help bring them over sometimes to high school, sometimes you place them directly from Finland. But give me your take on how you advise your players to handle all the NIL and transferring that's happening these days.
Well, I worked for the Finnish Basketball Federation for last 12 years. Now I stepped away last fall. So it was part of my job description is to because of my relationship with my background with American coaches. And obviously as you know, it's against like the year that Lauri, Lauri went to Arizona. We had Lauri plus 4 other Division One players in our 14-man roster or 12-man roster in Finland. So when you navigate 5 players, how many hours of phone calls and emails and all that, it's a lot of work. And then so obviously it's changed a lot from back then. A player which back then I would have probably think about high major maybe. Now it's okay. Let's see a mid major, a good mid major, and then you work your way up because, as we all know, the transfer rules and NIL has changed a lot. So the high major schools are looking for older guys, ready, established players. So now it's a very different, helping the players recruiting than it was 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it's almost completely different.
That's right.
And it's still tough for me because again, I'm, I understand the NIL. I'm all for players making money, but I'm right there with 99% of people that it's gone overboard. There needs to be some kind of structure, and I'm not sure it is good for the player development to always be jumping to the next opportunity. And so I would say right now for an international player, it's crucial that you play right away. Whereas back then, when it was a 4-year process, not only international, but hey, you go in the first year, if you get on you're good enough, you're not going to redshirt, you're going to play a little bit next year, a little more. Like I got, you need to be lucky. This is 5th time I'm telling you this, on this conversation, but when I got to Utah, one of the other forwards decided to transfer to D2 school. So it was basically our front court was Keith Van Horn, Michael Doliak, and myself. There was no 4th option. So Majerus told me, hey, you're going to back up both of them. And then if you're good enough, that 4th spot is yours for the next 3 years. And that's what happened. So I got lucky. I played, probably, 15, 16 minutes my first year. So it's so crucial now for players to play right away at the D1 level, because what I would advise to look for a level that you are good enough to play right away as a freshman. Meaning if your level is here and you get offer here and here, I would advise to probably go to that lower level. The chance that you're going to be happier, and a lot of players are happy when they play, and the chance for you to succeed and get better and then showcase yourself for the higher level team is higher. There's a lot of players who you see, go to the high majors, go to too high of a level, and then if you don't play, all right, well, you're dropping down, probably going to lose some NIL money on the way down, and it's a tricky slope. Now it's amazing that I'm saying it, but it's almost your goal is not to play at the same school for 4 years. If we talk about a good level Division I basketball player, unless you start at the high level, or you're a homegrown guy, let's say, wherever, and they take care of you with NIL, or you're a low major one guy and you're a local guy, you stay there, But if you're, let's say a foreigner or wherever, a Texas guy going to somewhere in Illinois or somewhere in Texas, in the West Coast, your goal is to be probably at least 2 schools, because that you have showcased yourself at that starting level first 2 years, and then you get a chance to play at a higher level, possibly earn more NIL money. So it is a professional sports nowadays, and I love that the coaches are saying it out loud when you talk to them. They understand
Yes.
it is professional sports. The money that is thrown out this kid, it's unbelievable compared to the actual outside of U.S. professional basketball. So that's I'm I was more probably bullish 10 years ago to try to get the almost the highest level possibility that guys go to, because I was so sure that our guys are good enough. Some guys did, some guys it was a wrong decision, but I learned. I think the players are, and now I would say let's go to that where you're gonna have the most chance to be happy. That's you got to be. If you're not, again, the college season is very short. We talk about first week when the game starts. It's the first week of November, and then 4 months later, it's December, January, February. It's the first week of March. So it's 4.5 months, and the season is over unless you go. So it's an extremely short season. And now if you had if you spend the whole year, because then you have a 8 months or 7 month off season. You need to be in the right place and somewhere where you are needed. Go somewhere where you are most needed, and where you feel that you have a chance to get some playing time.
Yeah, unless there's an option that pays double. And then you got to weigh the option of do I go to a place I'm not as excited about and make double the money? Because look, in the real world, Hanno, people do jobs for money all the time they don't like, right? So it's just another discussion to have, which makes it even more complicated. But something you mentioned there too is once you finish in college and potentially go overseas, you're going to make a lot less money. And explain that conversation you had with me a couple weeks ago and the mindset that people aren't really thinking about these days.
Well, I mean, it's again. I mean, am I tiny bit jealous that NIL is now, not 30 years ago? Absolutely. I mean, we would have been banking,
You would
with
have, yeah.
with the big time boosters we had. Utah, basketball was backed up then. But the fact of reality is that this NIL money is not. It's its own market. It'll be like a stock market that only some people in a certain country can invest in, and the returns are like outrageous. Like it's this dream world. Uh, we have players who make a lot more money than NBA players. We have college quarterbacks making 5 times more than starting you know rookie in the NFL. So I think, but from a pure basketball standpoint, it's a very interesting, I think, dilemma and problem the professional basketball is going to face in the next couple of years, and it's probably already started. That now you have American players who, let's say they're good players. Let's say close to high major players. Let's say you make a couple $100,000 a year, so you made $1 million in 4 years. Probably being at a couple of different schools or charter planes. All food is catered, and now you go to because the level of basketball in Europe or elsewhere, the high level, it's extremely good. It is higher than Division One college basketball, and they're very different. You go somewhere where you go and you make $5,000 a month, and all of a sudden you're sitting in a bus and you realize, oh, this is a grind. I'm maybe not good enough to play at this level, and how many players are ready to go through that wall and grind it when you just make a couple $100,000, or let's say even more, $1 million or 500K, what have you, and let's say you go from making 500,000 to 100,000, and to be able to make 100,000 in Europe, you need to be a hell of a player. Let's say you go from 400,000 to 50,000, and then you're not a star anymore. Your teammates are older. It's a different game. And what I'm a little bit afraid of for the game of basketball is that I think some young pros are gonna maybe just say, hey, it's not worth it. Why don't I go back to States and start coaching or go into a different field? which is a shame because it's so that's I think it would be great for the parents and the players to understand that this is the NIL is unbelievable, but it is not. It doesn't reflect your value in the outside of U.S. pro market. Your value, if you're lucky, it's half. It might be 10% or might be 25% of it. But then if you make it in Europe, obviously, money at the top of your league, it's unbelievable. Or in Asia, but it is an interesting it's an interesting kind of dilemma, and talk to some coaches, you can already see it. And then on the flip side, now that the colleges are allowed to pay, or the collectives now are allowed to openly pay for players, a lot of the high level European prospects are now looking to come to States. Whereas in the past, from the big basketball countries, France, Spain, Turkey, Greece, Italy, they would stay and develop there and the best players and make the pro team. But as the EuroLeague and the domestic leagues have gotten better, it's a lot tougher for a young player to play in Serie A or in Bundesliga in Germany, or and I mean the average age in EuroLeague is, I mean, it's definitely higher than NBA. I know we checked a couple years ago for the positions 3 and 4. If you are not American and not a local, let's say like a Spanish guy playing in Spanish EuroLeague team, the average age was over 29 years old. So if you're a European and you're not a local, and the average age for positions 3 and 4, it was almost 30 years old. So there is no 23-year American who walks into EuroLeague unless you are really, really, really good. So it also creates it's an interesting scenario where these Europeans who have developed in this system, now when they're 18, 19, they can make 10 times the money in college, and now their development depends on that 4.5-month season, whereas probably 9 months in Europe off season, still college teams are allowed to 4 hours a week. I understand there's ways around it, but it's still whereas in Europe it's a more of a 11-12 months out of a season development program. So what does the high level European players picture look like in 5 or 10 years if this continues? Let's say if Jokic would have come over at the age of 18 and not stayed in Serbia for a few more years, would the college coach allow him to be who he is? And then on the flip side, there's some guys who are going to benefit greatly from going to States. So there's some huge things happening in the game of basketball worldwide because of this NIL situation. It's a whole new market, and these professional teams know they are in a little bit of trouble because they're going to lose their young talents to US. So because of that, I know they have started putting in their contracts when they get them as a 16-year-olds or whatever. Now there's a development NIL buyout fee. So this NIL is also a way for European academies, European pro teams to start getting money back, which is great again, because for academy in a smaller basketball country like Finland, if you can get a 5 or 10 grand for a player, I'm not even talking about 500,000, which I know some of these guys are, the clubs are paid. It's so obviously it's a positive thing overall, but it is also it's gonna create a different kind of a development path now for a lot of the high level European prospects. And what's the end game? Everybody's not going to make the NBA. So it's going to be interesting to follow it, and how many schools, because huge part of the European game is also the national team. and when the players are in college, it's usually maybe the U8, U20 national team. During high school is the U18. So it's a year every summer thing. So one of the things when the players are recruited from here, the guys who I've helped, especially when I still worked for the federation and the academy, was that we want our players to be available to play for the national team during summer, because we feel that for that 6-week program where we can offer them 4 hours of practice every day. Okay, we're not practicing that, but colleges are stuck with the 4 hours a week. Our national team programs, they can practice, how much they want. Guys are probably going to be able to play 12, 13 games, including that European championships. So, so that's always fights. College coaches are great with that when you're upfront with it. It's important for us. It's important for the player. And then, yes, are they going to miss some of the summer school and some of the workouts in summer? Yes. But can the American player or the other players in the program, can they play 11, 12 high-level games in the middle of the off season when, again, college season is extremely short? It's absolutely most is 5 months. So that's always been big for us. So now when more and more Europeans are going there, okay, are the agents up front with the national team? And then obviously if you're a high-level player, you might be able to play for the senior national team during college. We had Mikael Jantunen, who now unbelievable EuroLeague player for Paris. He played for University of Utah for 2 years, and Larry Krzysztofiak was the head coach then. He took the 3 days out of his August recruiting time, came to Finland, and with him and the other high level players we have who were already senior national team players when they went to college, we asked them, hey, if we are in a absolute must-win situation in the qualifiers, can we make the phone call? Can Mika come during the college season to help us? Because he was a starting, when Lauri wasn't playing during the season, he's a starting 4-man then, and he's our starter with Lauri now. And Larry Krzysztofiak said, absolutely.
Good.
Go forward 2 years, it's COVID. We needed the last qualifying window. We needed 1 win to qualify for the European Championships. And we made the phone call. Coach Krzysztofiak, who's a man of his words, unbelievable guy. Yes, he knew it's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
Mika missed a couple of games. Mika flew in, boom, played the first game. We won it. He didn't stay for the second game, flew back because of COVID rules, all that. He had to be in quarantine for a couple of games. But and I always tell the story. When I was a freshman in 1996, Rick Majerus told me, I know national team is extremely important for you. You should go back in the middle of the season in November, fly Finland, play 2 games. I think we played Italy and Macedonia, and then come back and let's see how it feels. Okay, back then we didn't have money to fly business class. Traveling was a lot longer anyway. I went. Okay, it was right after the grueling 5 weeks of preseason, and I went there and played. I understood, at least after Rick Majerus' preseason, I can't play national team games. I'm exhausted. So I tell stories to these college coaches when they're like, yeah, well, I don't think that he could be missing 6 weeks of summer school. I'm all right. Well, Rick Majerus told me to go play in the middle of the season.
Right.
Well, obviously, it's an extreme case. We would have never asked Mika to come back to play if it wasn't basically a one and done situation. Because then we made the European Championships. Go forward 1.5 years. We had unbelievable. We made it to the quarterfinals. Lost to Spain in the last couple minutes, and so it's a for an international player, college is not everything. It's a year-round thing, and I always tell these college coaches, when you are recruiting an international player, if he or she is part of the national team program, it should be the player in the middle. It's college, and then if he has a strong national team program like we do, both sides are pulling together. So when the players is at the school, we do everything possible. We to help you guys, and then the player needs to feel wanted, that the college coach also wants him to go and get the experience and sees the value of it. Because again, the 6 weeks of playing high level, different type of basketball only helps the player. So they're going to return as a better player. I never spent the summer in Utah. I came home every summer, played for the national team, and then came back. Boom. It didn't hurt my academics. I was 2-time academic All-American. I got better every day, and I don't think I could have survived it if I'd stayed in Utah, in summer. So, but obviously it's a case by case. But for us, we are a pretty small basketball country by the number of players. So it is crucial that all the best players are representing whether it's university games, like next summer is the World University Games. They're in Germany. Baylor is representing U.S. When I played back in '95, U.S. sent the absolute best college players. It was in Japan. It was the starting five was Allen Iverson, Ray Allen, Kerry Kittles, Tim Duncan, I think one of the O'Bannon brothers. Marcus Camby was a backup. I played 2 university games. They're unbelievable experience. So our college players, we hope they all come back and play for us, because it's also part of our kind of senior national team program. It's a high level 2-week event, 5,000 athletes. So those are important. And I think the international, the college coaches, modern college coaches, they understand it and wanna be part of that player's total development, and sees that is also good. The players need to go home in summer, and if you can combine being home and getting high level coaching, high level training, good games, and then come back, and you don't miss the whole summer. You miss 6 weeks there in the middle. So that's a huge part of the recruiting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing all that. Last question for you. There's a word in the Finnish language called Sisu, Sisu. For those that don't know what that is, explain that and explain how you learned that growing up in Finland.
Probably best translation is a grit, determination, and part of that is also collectiveness. We are extremely collective country. People do what it's kind of asked. That's probably how we got through the COVID thing so well, because there's always dumb people everywhere who want to break the rules. But so Sisu is definitely a toughness, a grit thing. That when things kind of get tough, Finnish people find a way to survive and survive together in a lot of cases. I think I don't know when it started, but obviously, our history in the Second World War, being able to withstand Russia's Soviets attack when they had 10 times the soldiers than we did. That's kind of probably one of the starting points of that. So it's a thing. It's the attitude that you have, that you do the things that you're asked to do. You're very trustworthy, and you have a determination and a grit to survive whatever the obstacle is. That's probably a good thing to say.
Yeah, love it. All right, we're going to finish up here with some quick hitters, all right? Who's the best player you ever played against?
Michael Jordan.
Okay, who's the best player you ever coached against?
Oh, wow. Probably Nikola Jokic. He's pretty good.
Okay, yep, not bad. What's your favorite movie?
I am a movie guy. Lot of great. Um, um, I'm a Star Wars guy for sure. We used to watch a lot of Star Wars pregame movies with Michael Doliak. Um, so that's kind of the genre, but like Pulp Fiction, hell of a movie. I haven't watched it in a long time, but we're just talking about Tarantino movies with wife the other day. So um, yeah, let's go with Pulp Fiction.
I saw Pulp Fiction in the theater 8 times because I couldn't believe it, and I had to keep showing people like you've got to see this. I don't even know how to
And
describe it.
yeah, and I still like when you watch it again, you see a new side of it, and yeah, it's a hell of a flick.
Yeah. And then when you're not doing basketball, what are your hobbies?
Oh, I love to cook. That's
Okay.
something. He played for Rick Majerus. He never ate with us. He knew we were extremely uncomfortable around him, but he always on the road told us to go to the best restaurants. So that was our salary. School had we're allowed to pay for it, so we would go to 5-star restaurants with our windbreakers on, and there's people with their suits and all that on. And then the NBA, that was also a great part of it. Play with Tony Kukoc, and he was also culinary person, so he taught me a lot of good restaurants. So I love to cook. And he's also kind of my little inner competition. I want to get better at it. If I see something I want to go, then when I put the dish on the table with the family, I'm proud. If it's good, I'm gonna say it out loud. But then if I take the first bite and it's not what I expected, I'm like, yeah, you know. So I kind of harsh on myself. Um, so that's probably it. Obviously, spending time with family, and family and friends. Was able to go ski first time last weekend with my buddies. First time probably since I retired, so almost 15 years ago. So yeah, try to be active. Try to stay up. Try to go to gym 2 3 times to lift some weights, and don't play basketball. My knees and my leg wouldn't allow me to really, but like I can't do basketball half-ass.
Right.
I play some soccer. I play some soccer, with friends. We played in this kind of summer league for 20 plus years. So yeah, just hang out with the family, and try to cook some good food. The grilling season is starting here, so that's something looking forward to.
Love it. Is there anything we didn't discuss that you want to mention before we go?
Well, no, I mean, it was a great catch up. It's you know, you've been a big help for some of getting knowledge on some of the recruiting stuff for myself, and yeah, highly recommend any of the listeners. Again, you don't get the EuroLeague basketball experience in Finland, but if you wanna visit Finland, summertime is a great time to do it, and you know it's been a pleasure and an honor to be your guest, and I think we covered a lot of things.
Yeah, we sure did. Yeah, I've been to Finland 4 times now. Every time has been in December. So I'd like to come in the summer at some point. But
Yes. Days are getting pretty long now. It's gonna be a light all the way, probably up to like 9:15, 9:30 now, and in a little bit it's a 24 hours of light, and it's a special time here. But then flip side, like you were in December, it's dark, but then I love it. Some
yeah,
people get depressed, but I love it when it's short days. Just put on light up a candle, and enjoy kind of the maybe put firewood working and all that. So I love it year round here. Not that I'm not against traveling to in nice summer destinations in when it's our winter, but yeah, it's a harsh nature. It's a beautiful nature. Summertime, there's not a place in the world I would rather be at. Uh, it's warm enough, but it doesn't get blazing hot here, and it's yeah, cool place to be.
well, you were gracious to host me and my dad 8 years ago when we came there, and you got to connect me with my high school teammate, Yari Vekula, who I hadn't seen since 1994. And we got to see you coach, and you actually brought Timu Lang, who was the sauna who we were so afraid to get in as kids. So you were a gracious host. And next time you come to Denver, look forward to getting you in our sauna and
Absolutely.
sharing that experience. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Former NBA player, former Utah Ute, former national team and EuroLeague player, Hanno Möttölä joining us here on the podcast. We go way back. It's good to have him on and share his thoughts. If you liked all this, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on all the major podcasting platforms and go to YouTube and subscribe there, where we also have bonus content. And any questions come up, feel free to reach out to me. I get back to everybody. You can find us at prepathletics.com. Hanno, good to see you again, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Take care.